Recently, there's been a pretty big spike in new Punishing Gray Raven players that have come to try out the game for the first time thanks to the rising popularity and closed beta test 2 of Wuthering Waves. And while as a PGR and Wuthering Waves content creator, this is very much exciting for myself, I think the fact that people are coming to PGR from Wuthering Waves is causing a little bit of friction for some new players. And I figured as the resident PGR and Wuthering Waves guy, I would give my take on it and give new players a little bit of a warning and elaborate on a few things. So I recently came across a video from Guitar Rock Gaming. If you haven't heard of his channel before, he does a lot of other gacha gaming content. He covers a variety of games. I've seen his content for some of the games that I play on the side, not as main content for this channel, but he recently released a video about Punishing Gray Raven has some major issues. And I wanted to address some of those issues because I think the reason that people are having them is because they're coming in with the wrong expectation. Kuro Games, the developer behind both of the games, is known for its peak combat ability, some of the best that you can find in the gacha genre, with great animations and effects and kits and a variety of combat styles that are available that has really impressed a lot of players. There's a reason why people who like Nier Automata and Devil May Cry series and other action-based combat games really like to play them because, let's be real, they know what they're doing. However, people coming in from Wuthering Waves who are getting more of the soft version of that combat in terms of the mechanics and how the game is played are coming in with the wrong expectations on PGR. And the big thing that comes out of it, like you can see in the text on screen here, is that people don't like the UI and don't think that the skill mechanics are polished well for PC. The person summarized it in this way: the game on paper is great. I love the animations, the characters, and the instance mode, but the button input for PC is so confusing that it seems made by an indie company. Not trying to diminish right now, indie games are at their peak, but I tried following guides to use the mouse for normal attacks and dashes, but WASD and the extra button inputs you have to touch seems to be for someone with 8 fingers on each hand. Now, maybe you haven't tried Punishing Gray Raven, so let me show you what they're talking about. Now, unlike Genshin and Wuthering Waves or games of a similar kind, as you can see along the bottom, there are those different colored orbs. Those are your skills in this game. Each character has 3 different colored orbs that can activate 3 different kinds of skills. Kits may vary in that case. But if you notice along the bottom, it's reading my controller input right now, but you can see there's circle, X, square, triangle, and then an L2 circle, L2X, L2 square, L2 triangle. Orb pinging is essential in Punishing Gray Raven in terms of getting the 3 pings when you need them, or in some cases for characters' passive abilities, you need to ping the right orbs entirely to activate their core passives. So you need to make sure that you are pinging the right orbs along the bottom. Now, if you're an MMO player or somebody who's used to having a lot of inputs, that's not going to be a major issue for you. You're going to be able to have it mapped on the number pad, you're going to know where you're wanting to pick, and it's not going to be an issue. But for players who are coming in from where you have really 1 skill button and 1 ultimate button available, that's going to be a pretty big shift. The reason the game was designed in this way is because Punishing Gray Raven was originally designed for a mobile experience. So you were supposed to just be using your thumbs to tap the skills or orbs that you wanted to be activating at that time. And to be honest, as somebody who's played it a decent amount on phones and on mobile, it really does work well, but I can understand that it might be tricky for some players who are coming in for the first time seeing this. People have been making comments about how the game was not super optimized for PC in its development, and that's because it wasn't. When Punishing Gray Raven first released, it was only released on mobile and there was no PC client released along with it. The PC client came like a year and a half later before an official one was actually announced, and a lot of it needed to be moved over. But one thing that the game did launch with, like you saw before, is controller support. Now, maybe you don't have a controller, and I understand that that might be kind of annoying, but I honestly do think that PGR is much better on a controller-based experience. It's not as hard as you would think at doing the different kinds of inputs, using the regular, circle, square, triangle, and then or doing the L2 alternate to pick the right orbs that you want to pick. I just wanted to bring that up at first, that yes, the game was not originally optimized for PC, and those of us who've played the game for a little bit longer understand that to be the case, but I understand that new players coming in from Wuthering Waves were expecting something a little bit different and something that was maybe a little bit more optimized for a desktop experience. So that's the first thing that I really wanted to address. And just to wrap up that point, that I would definitely say, play it with a controller on desktop before you really decide how much you don't like it. I do really think that PGR is a more optimal experience played on controller on the desktop, and on your phone it works just fine with using your thumbs, and both can be a great experience in their own right. So don't come into it expecting Wuthering Waves combat coming into PGR. A lot of people understand that PGR's combat was kind of softened for Wuthering Waves, and it was twisted to be a little more applicable to an open world combat setting, with a little bit more of an emphasis on swapping between the characters in a slightly different way, also with characters only having the one skill. Now, there are some combos and things that are available in Wuthering Waves. I'm not trying to say that Wuthering Waves combat is super simple. There is still definitely a very high skill cap, but it's not the same as Punishing Gray Raven. So if you come into it with that expectation, yeah, you're going to be disappointed. But that's only the first concern that I wanted to address, because I do think there are actually two more that a lot of people don't realize. Now, if you came expecting a Wuthering Waves-like story experience in Punishing Gray Raven, you are not going to get that. PGR tells its story in a more classic light novel format, one that is not going to appeal to everybody. And to be honest, early on in the story, it's pretty rough. I really wanted to skip the first 1 to 7 chapters of the game. It's really not that engaging, but it does lay the groundwork for future parts of the story that really do pick up. But again, it still keeps to that light novel format. So if that's not for you and you're not going to enjoy the way that the story is presented to you, yeah, that's going to be another barrier that you're going to bump into and something you'll probably be disappointed by. It is not that full animated cutscenes. There's not a lot of special animations mixed throughout. There are a few, but a lot of those really are limited to the previews that are available for them. Outside of the game, not as much inside. There are some inside before some PGR players start coming at me for that, but it's not anything like you're going to get from a Wuthering Waves. The other point that I wanted to get back to kind of ties into the first one again, where people have a kind of a bad expectation going into combat, and that is also that there are going to be skill issues with PGR. PGR doesn't really softball its combat almost at all. One of the first combats you get into in the story is designed for you to lose. You can beat it, but it's designed for you to lose. The game is trying to present to you, hey, look, this is what you're getting in for. This is the kind of combat to expect. Hey, look at that skill gap. You got a lot of work to do. You know, the first time you get your butt cheeks clapped by Lucia Crimson Abyss, it's a pretty shocking experience, but it's also a lot of fun because you realize where you can get to. But that skill gap can be an issue, especially when you consider that a lot of characters play very different. There's a pretty big roster of characters in the game, all having their own kits and roles and how you're supposed to use them in various team combinations. And it can feel really daunting thinking about the amount of characters that you need to learn to play better with. I think that's mostly just a consequence of it being a little bit more of a mature gacha game, but I know just that idea in general can be really daunting for a lot of people. So my recommendation is don't come into it thinking that you need to learn every single character at once. Come into it thinking, what's a character I like, or find a character you like and learn to play them first. Get the fundamentals down. Understand what PGR truly is before you start worrying about every single other team and branching out and all the different team compositions and who's better in what slot and what memory should you be using on them. Don't go crazy. Just come into it, find a character you like, the playstyle you like, and learn them first. And it's really going to open up your PGR experience overall. Speaking of characters, there were some other complaints that went along in this video where people were talking about how they're going to get all the characters that they need to do the different teams to build them out. You know, how am I going to get all the characters for a lightning team and a fire team and an ice team? Like there's just too many characters to get. It's just too much to fill the backlog for. I think there's two things that people are failing to consider. One, yeah, Rome wasn't built in a day. You're not going to be able to build every single elemental mono team right out the gate. It's going to take time for you to get some of the characters. But I will say a lot of the A rank characters in the game can fill a majority of the slots if you do need to fill them on a team. You shouldn't just expect to walk into a gacha game expecting to get every single S rank character that has been previously released in the first, couple weeks that you play. That's just completely unreasonable. No gacha game is like that. However, like I said, PGR has got A rank characters that you can get very easily. On new accounts, you get a lot of these blue tickets, which is like standard banner currency. And when you're pulling on this banner, you get to actually pick which A rank character you want to pull for. So if you do need a particular character for a particular team composition, you can have them selected, do 110 pull with the blue tickets, and you're basically guaranteed. If you want to be even more frugal than that, you could just do single pulls until you get the A rank character and then switch it again. You don't even have to do it in 10 pulls. You can get those characters. Now, I know a lot of people are disappointed by that because they're like, well, I don't want that. I want the S rank characters. Again, personally, I just think that's an unrealistic expectation to set. Again, to waltz into a gacha game thinking you're going to start the game up and get every single S rank character that's previously come over the last almost 2 years, like, in what world is that reasonable? All that being said, what I'm trying to tell new PGR players who have come from Wuthering Waves or just interested to give it a try, it is a marathon, not a sprint. Don't expect all of your teams to be built that quickly. Don't expect to get all of those S ranks right away. Find the characters you like, learn to play those characters, and then the more of the enjoyment will come with time. So that's just what I wanted to say. My little bit of a warning to other new players who want to come in and try the game out. Just take those things into consideration and understand that so you don't come in with misaligned expectations and you end up just ruining your whole PGR experience at all. But let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. My other PGR veterans who maybe have clicked on this video, what's something you would want to tell a new player to get them prepared to play PGR for the first time? It does have a pretty high barrier to entry. I understand that, especially when your expectations are misaligned, but I do still think it is a very good game and it is worth your time. So let me know what you think in the comments down below. Thank you so much for watching. Again, quick shout out to the patrons who help me do what I do on this channel. Without your support, I could not be doing it. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.